Well, hello, mamas. Jessica Coulter here. Let's talk more about test taking today. We're going to focus on the importance of tests. Okay, so when your teens are saying, hey, I can just retake the test. Hey, I already know this information. Oh, it's just a quiz. Whatever you might be hearing from your teens. Finals, quizzes, all that stuff in and out of the classroom and even beyond school. So once we get to different like entrance exams, placement tests, things that are needed for certifications, renewals, all of that stuff. So, mamas, let's talk. Let's talk about the importance of tests. And if you had to choose between 1 and 6, 6 being super important, 1 being not at all important, where would you rate tests? Do you think they're important for education? Do you not? Let me know down below. Because I got to tell you, as the CEO and founder of Ace Cookie Tutoring, tests have their place. So I'm most definitely one of the people that would choose a 6. Okay? And I want to welcome you to my Facebook group. There's a link in the description. If you're not already a member, join us after the video. So why are tests important? If you are someone who said that, they're not important, maybe your teen really, really hates them, and, you're curious, okay, Jessica, tell me what the importance are. Well, I got to tell you, for things like a classroom test, there are grades, there are points. Okay, so that's like the most standard, I don't know if I want to say obvious reason that tests are important. Okay, your child takes a test, he's going to get a grade, and depending on how that test went, that's really going to help your child's grade or really hurt your child's grade. Okay, because I got to tell you that tests are usually worth a lot of points. It's not at all uncommon for quizzes, for unit tests, for chapter tests to be worth way more when it comes to weighting. Okay, I had a student that I worked with. He was awesome at the information, knew the content forwards, backwards. We could do practice problems together, and yet he was flunky in the class. The reason? He was a horrible test taker, like a horrible test taker. And I got to tell you, the way that teacher had that class, like homework was only worth maybe 10% of the grade, quizzes and tests, I believe we were talking like 60, 80% of the grade. So, they're only worth, say, 100 points, but if the teacher's going to weigh them, your kid has got to be great at tests. Okay, so that's one reason tests are so important, for the sake of helping your teen get good grades and have that GPA, so then he can move on to the next class, the next school, next opportunity, whatever it might be. For our older students that are watching, mamas, if you've got a kiddo thinking about college, do know tests, especially like the ACT, SAT, they make a huge difference in scholarship money. Now, I know part of universities out there, certain different ages of kids, different like classes, will get the option to do like test optional, test blind. That's a whole nother thing, and we can definitely talk about that if you'd like. But do know, depending on the school, scholarships, no matter if they're test blind, test optional, whatever, they are still going to be very, very dependent. The scholarship amounts are on the score your child gets on the ACT, SAT. Okay, so that's another reason tests are so important. Okay, so I want to share some more information for you here, because I know some of you are probably going, okay, Jessica, but is it really fair? Is it really equal, opportunity-wise? We're going to talk about that. Before we do, I'm live on Facebook. I'm live on YouTube. So if you're not a subscriber of the Ace Cookie Tutoring YouTube channel, you're not a subscriber of the Ace Cookie Tutoring Facebook page, would love to have you as one or both, so you always catch these videos live or even the replays. So do know there's going to be more information about test taking strategies all this week right here. So make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button. So I mentioned this idea of whether it's fair, whether it's really equal opportunity for everyone when it comes to test taking. Well, I got to tell you, part of the reason tests are so important is for the fact it's an equalizer, because how else can the teachers, can anyone really see who knows what? Can you imagine each college having their own tests to decide, okay, this is how we're going to see what this student knows versus this student versus that student. And it would be really, really hard for high school graduates, let alone anyone else that wants to go to college, to decide, okay, how do I prepare for this test? Okay. When we have the ACT, when we have the SAT, those are the tests, and certain content, certain strategies for both, and everyone can learn those content. Everyone can learn those strategies. Okay. Same thing at school. I like to believe that all teachers are fair, that no one plays favorites. But I know for myself as a student, there were certain teachers that didn't like me, especially a certain wrestling teacher. He's a football coach, wrestling coach, history teacher. But anyway, if it hadn't been for something standard, something where he couldn't be subjective, I wouldn't have done very well in his class. So that's another reason that tests are fair. If you do a multiple choice test, an A is an A, or answer choice C is T, you can't change that, okay? Now, I mentioned strategies versus content. This is another thing why tests are so important. If your child has, like a learning disability, if your child just is not getting that content, well, there are still strategies that are good for tests. We talked about those yesterday, some of the strategies that are the same for both standardized tests and chapter tests or, things at school. So definitely do know anyone can use those strategies as soon as they learn the strategies, okay? Now, obviously, there's going to be a difference in score and grades if your child knows the content versus is just using strategies or some combination or is heavier on the content, okay? Because we talked a lot about timing the other day too. So definitely do know both are important, but yet they're both available, okay? And that makes tests important too, okay? Because if your child uses those strategies but doesn't know the content, well, the teacher's probably going to know that. The score is going to reflect, we're missing understanding here. And that's part of the reason tests is so important, is for the fact of, what does the class know? Did this first group of kids in my first hour class really get like page 3? But then somehow something happened to my last class and they totally bombed page 3. Well, that might mean to the teacher, hey, either I forgot to say something, I didn't teach it right way. There's some kind of disconnect. And that's part of the reason tests are so important. Okay. So I know I covered a lot here. If you've got questions, I would love to dive into those with you. You are also welcome to ask questions in my Facebook group. I would love to have you in my group called Teaching Teens to Love Learning. There's a link in the description below. All you gotta do to join us is click it, answer a couple questions, and you'll be in. I do go live in my group every Sunday, so that is your best chance to really interact with me so I can help you one-on-one. If you are here and catch my lives on Facebook or YouTube, that's wonderful too, and I'll do my best to respond. But for sure, if you want to know how I help teens love to learn, you want to know how I can help your teen be an awesome test taker, learn these strategies, learn the content, join my group so I can help your teen love to learn. Have an awesome night, and I will see you soon for another video all about test taking. Bye, mamas.